This video podcast is brought to you by McCarter Online.
It was very important to me to find out why Dickens wrote this in the first place. So I went back to do that research and learned about him writing against child labor abuse and initially deciding to turn out a pamphlet that speaks out specifically against the child labor abuse that was going on in England in the mid-1800s. And he changed his mind and decided to write A Christmas Carol instead. And if you read the story, you wouldn't say, oh, this is about child labor abuse. What's the magic of it is that it's about one man who can make a difference to the children of the future. So what was most key about the research was to go back and find out why Dickens wrote it in the first place. And then visually, I was inspired by a book of engravings by a French artist named Gustave Doré, who actually went to England about the time that Dickens wrote this in 1843 and did a book of engravings on Victorian England. So I gave that book to Ming Cho Lee, our set designer, one of the legendary set designers of the world. And he came back with 3 or 4 ideas based on that book. And we picked the one that I felt most represented the story I wanted to tell. But what's really, I'm not one of those directors who would, ever set Shakespeare on the moon or, find it necessary to twist something out of the author's original intention just for the sake of being different or to show how creative I can be. And there are plenty of creative directors who can do that wonderfully. But it's really important to me to be faithful to the author's original impulse. And I don't think there's need to improve upon Dickens' original impulse. So most of the research that informed the production was finding out, what was going on for Dickens at that time. And then obviously what was going on for the kids who were in these horrible situations at the time. Another difference between this production and the previous production, I mentioned that one wasn't as focused on the kids, so it was key from the beginning for me to show in the very first scene kids in duress, in horrible situations, kids that are on Christmas Eve lugging their wares home, working late Christmas Eve, burdened down by their wares, by their occupation, to remind us of where this all came from.
This podcast has been brought to you by McCarter Theater in Princeton, New Jersey. For tickets, call 609-258-ARTS or visit www.mccarter.org.